Hi everyone, hope you had a good weekend. This is the reading lesson for May 18th through 22nd. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the story and then I'm going to go over the 3 assignments that I've given you for the week. So fact and opinion, the trifold, and the fossil dig. We're not doing vocabulary this week. I think you kind of need a break and you're ready to move on to 3rd grade. I think you understand how that all works. So that's what my plan is. Sorry, I'm gonna scoot around here a little bit. That's what my plan is. So the first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and read the story. This is such a fun story, and I love teaching this in class because we do a lot of fun activities with it. So this is called The Dog That Dug for Dinosaurs, and it is a biography. And if you remember way back when we did Helen Keller, a biography tells events about a person. So if you want to remember the difference between a biography and an autobiography, a biography is the story written about someone. They didn't write the story. Somebody else wrote the story about them. So when we read about Helen Keller, she didn't write her own story. Somebody wrote her story about her with true facts. An autobiography would be if Helen Keller wrote her own story about herself. So this is a biography, and you are going to take a look at this and listen to me read it, and then we'll kind of discuss the activities we can do, or we're going to do. So the essential question is, how can you learn about animals that lived long ago? So we're thinking a lot of science this week with fossils, so I'm going to read it first, and then we'll kind of talk about what I need you to do for the week. A long, long time ago, there was a little dog named Trey. He was black and white all over. He had friendly brown eyes and a very wiggly tail. Trey lived in England. Trey was a real dog. And this is an honest, true story about him. So the story about the dog. Trey loved 2 things most in the whole world. First, he loved Mary Anning. She was 12 years old and lived with her family in a small cottage near the beach in Lyme Regis. Secondly, Trey loved going with Mary to dig for fossils. So what is a fossil anyway? They are the remains of animals and plants that died a long time ago. When a leaf or bone gets pressed between layers of sea mud, it leaves an imprint. And you can see the picture on page 425. That is a picture there of an imprint. An imprint, so if we were walking on the beach and the sand was wet, or even if it wasn't wet, and we put our footprint down and lifted it up, you would see the imprint of our foot. After many, many years, the mud hardens to rock. So we have that imprint, and then it's made in the mud. We have the imprint, and then it hardens. Now, this is not going to happen to our footprint on the beach because it's going to get washed away. So let's move on to page 426. Trey and Mary knew that they would find the very best fossils high up in the cliffs around the beach. They climbed up in the cliffs every day. Trey sniffed the rocks, sniff, sniff. He pawed the dirt, scratch, scratch. Mary used a small hammer and chisel, tap, tap, tap. With these tools, Mary carefully cut fossils out of the cliff, just as her father had shown her. Trey watched as she placed the fossils in her basket. Most of the fossils looked like seashells. Mary and Trey sold them as souvenirs to the tourists that came by stagecoach to swim at the beach near their home. One day, Trey and Mary discovered some very large bones sticking out of the rocks. They were huge. Trey growled and tried to dig the bones out. Mary used her hands to brush away the loose dirt. "Trey, we've discovered a monster," she declared. The bones were much too big for Trey and Mary to remove by themselves. And you can kind of see a picture of there on page 427. What does it look like to you? "I'll go for help," Mary said. "You stay here, Trey." Trey barked loudly and sat down in front of the bones. He was a very good guard dog. Mary ran all the way back to town and asked some grown-ups to help her. "Trey and I have found something really special in the cliff," she told them. "Just wait and see." When the men saw the giant rib bones in the side of the cliff, they were amazed. "What a beast!" they cried. "Look at those sharp teeth." Is it a crocodile? One man asked. Or a stubby whale? We don't know what it is, Mary admitted, but we know that it's something special, don't we, Trey? Trey yipped and wagged his tail. A rich man who lived nearby heard about the sea monster. He hurried to see it for himself. I'll buy it, he cried. I will give it to the British Museum in London. Do you know what it is? Asked Mary. It is called an ichthyosaur, the man told her. That means fish lizard, he explained. It's like a dinosaur with fins. And you can see in the background there of that picture, that is the whole imprint. That's the fossil. So it was there and the mud covered it, it hardened, and that's what was left as they chipped away. So it wasn't exposed to them. They didn't see it. They remember she had that chisel and hammer, and she was kind of digging for things, and that's what they came across. So as she came across the head first, she started chiseling farther in to find the body. This is page 430. The amazing news spread about the gigantic fish lizard and the dog and the little girl who found it, and soon many strangers came to Lyme Regis, where Mary and Trey lived. They all wanted to hunt for fossils, too. The men wore tall top hats. The women wore frilly bonnets. They carried pretty umbrellas called parasols. Mary shook her head and smiled. She rubbed Trey's soft ears, and they watched the strangers together. They don't have the right tools, Mary whispered. They're wearing the wrong kind of shoes. Aren't they silly, Trey? Trey yipped and chased his tail. Curious scientists visited Lyme Regis too. One man came from the university in Oxford. His name was William Buckland. He went to the old carpenter shop where Mary and Trey sold their fossils. Can you show me where you found your ichthyosaur, young lady? He asked politely. Do you think you could find the exact spot again? Oh, Trey and I can find it. Trey can find it, Mary boasted. Together, Mary and Mr. Buckland followed the little dog across the beach and up the cliffs. Trey sniffed the rocks, sniff, sniff. He pawed the dirt, scratch, scratch. And suddenly he yipped. Then he sat down. Mary pointed. It was in this exact place where they had discovered the strange fish lizard. What an intelligent dog, Mr. Buckland declared, and Trey wagged his tail. Trey and Mary continued to dig for fossils. They were very careful. Mary watched for falling rocks, like her dad told her. Trey looked out for storms and high tides. And then one day, they discovered another giant creature. Look, Trey, Mary cried. Is it a sea dragon? Trey sniffed the skeleton and snapped at it with his teeth. The creature had a long neck. Its backbone was like a humped turtle shell. Instead of feet and legs, it had 4 large paddles. But it wasn't a sea dragon. Mr. Buckland called it a plesiosaur. One day, Trey and Mary found a fossil that no one in England had ever found before. This one had huge bony wings like a bat and a long sharp jaw. Trey growled. It looks like a gigantic flying lizard, Mary declared. The scientists thought so too, and that's why they named it the pterodactyl. That means lizard with wings. Over the years, Trey, Mary, and Mr. Buckland became good friends. They showed him where to find the best fossils in Lyme Regis. Mr. Buckland brought books about dinosaurs for Mary. He brought beef bones for Trey. Mary, with Trey on her lap, studied her books every day. When Trey's whiskers turned gray and Mary was all grown up, they still collected fossils and sold them in the carpenter's shop. There were boxes and baskets filled with fossils on the floor and on the shelves. Some of the fossil creatures were so big they couldn't fit through the door. Sometimes children and tourists stopped in to buy fossils of ancient sand dollars or tiny fish in curly shells. Many scientists came to the shop to buy fossils too. They brought carts and wagons to haul away the really large ones. Trey and Mary Anning became very famous. Today, if you go to the Natural History Museum in London, you can see the large fossils they discovered together. You can also see a famous painting of Mary holding her fossil basket, and Trey, the dog that dug for dinosaurs. So we've talked about author's purpose a lot in class, and it says, what is the author's purpose for writing about Mary and Trey? Did they entertain? Did they persuade? Or did they inform? That's right, they informed us. They gave us information. Such a great story, can you imagine? So one of the skills we're going to work on this week is fact and opinion. And we've done this so many times in class. I wish we were together to review, but since we're not, I'll just review for you a little bit so you can remember what you're doing. So a fact is something that can be proven to be true. You have to be able to prove it. I am wearing a red shirt. You can look at me and go, yep, she's right. She's wearing a red shirt. That is a fact. Behind me, if you look at this wall, this is a wall of the pets that we have had and still have. So a fact might be that Toby, the dog that we still have, is in the center. That would be a fact. He's our black lab, and I can prove it. Now, an opinion might be the way someone feels. So I might say, these were the best pets ever. Well, that's my opinion, because if you have a pet or grandma and grandpa have a pet, you might think that their pet is the best. So a fact is something that can be proven to be true. There are lots of facts throughout the story, okay? You are going to find 2 facts in the story and 2 opinions. Now, opinions seem to be trickiest for all of you. Remember, opinion is the way someone feels or someone thinks. So if I said that dinosaur was huge, that's my opinion. Someone else might look at it and go, yeah, it's pretty big, but I've seen bigger ones before. So in the fact and opinion assignment, you have 2 of these. You have to write in a complete sentence with a capital letter and period of 1 fact on this sheet, and then there's another fact sheet and 1 fact on that one, and then there are 2 opinion sheets. You're going to go ahead and write 2 opinions, capital letters, periods, complete sentences. You'll cut out those 4 circles, and then you'll be able to see, ask your parents to look at the example I sent for you. You're going to actually make a dinosaur head with eyes and a cover, and you'll put your facts and opinions together in there and staple it. I even gave you some teeth if you wanted to do that. Now, if you don't have the paper or the time to make the dinosaur booklet, it's okay. You can just write out 2 facts and 2 opinions. Make sure they're facts, make sure they're opinions, capital letter, period, complete sentence. Okay? And then the next thing you're going to do, and you can, I know on the assignment sheet to your parents, I said Monday read the story, Tuesday, I think do the trifold or the fact and opinion, I can't remember. You do this however you want it. You have the whole week to finish this. I only really gave you 3 assignments plus reading the story. The trifold is another one, so you'll put your name here. It says, what do Mary and Trey do to stay safe when they look for fossils? Okay, so what do they do? Remember, Mary looks for something and Trey keeps an eye out for something. So you're going to write, you'll need 2 sentences. To say safe, Mary does this, period. And then capital letter, to stay safe, Trey does this, period. Okay? Why do strangers come to Lyme Regis? Remember, Lyme Regis is where they live. Why is it all of a sudden a bunch of strangers are coming there? Okay, so look in the story and find that. This is the 2nd page of the trifold. It says, what details? Details are the things that create the pictures in your mind so you can see them. What details does the author give about Trey? So the author doesn't say that Trey is a dog, because if he said a dog, I mean, the first thing I would think of is my dog that I have at home. Well, Trey did not look like my dog, but the author described his color, his size, what his personality was like. So it gave you lots of space. I want you to give me at least 3 details about Trey. Okay? 3 details, 3 sentences, 3 capital letters, 3 periods. Okay? Why do many of the fossils that Mary and Trey found look like seashells? Think about their location. Where were they digging? And then tell me in a complete sentence, capital letter, period, why did many of the shells, remember she found them and she sold them to tourists who came to town, why did most of them or many of them look like seashells? Only a few dinosaurs. And then what fact does Mary find out about the bones? Okay, so you have to give me one fact that Mary finds out about the bones of the dinosaur or the bones of anything that she has found. And it is in the book. So make sure you have a capital letter and a period and look in the book. Go back and find the answers. The third activity is, there's 2 parts to it. This is the first part. Now, there's a sheet before this that your parents printed out for you that tells the story of how a fossil is formed. It's 1 page. Read it together with your parent. And then you're going to cut these out and put in order, so you're putting them in sequence, what came first, second, third, fourth, and fifth in that story. And here's your different details. The flesh decays, and all that is left are the hard bones and teeth. Minerals seep into the bones, causing a chemical change. An animal dies. The bones change into a heavy rock-like copy of the original. The animal's covered in layers of sediment. So which one of these has to happen first for a fossil to be formed, and then second, third, fourth, and fifth? And the last activity, my favorite, we're actually going to do a fossil dig. Now, we can't go out and dig together. So we are going to dig chocolate chips out of a cookie. Now, if you don't have chocolate chip cookies, don't panic. You can wait until Mom goes to the store next time, and maybe you could clean your room or do some chores and ask her if she would please buy some chocolate chip cookies. If she can't, she can't, and that's okay. So if you're going to do this activity, you need a chocolate chip cookie, and you need a toothpick. And I'll tell you right now, if you have brothers and sisters, they're going to want to do it with you. So go ahead and get them a cookie and a toothpick too. So it says paleontologists have been very careful not to break the fossils as they dig them up. They map the area they're digging to keep track of where the fossils were formed. This will help them learn more about the animal. They use special tools to dig for fossils. The scientists measure, draw, and take pictures of the fossils. They use all this information later when they work with fossils in their laboratories. So here, you can see this box. It says, draw your cookie on the grid. So you can just, if you want to place your cookie on here and trace the circle, you can. Then after you get the circle shape, you're going to look at your cookie and you're going to draw black circles, with your pencil is fine, of where all the chocolate chips are. Okay, so it might look like, and my circle probably won't be very round, but maybe here's my circle. And I'll tell you what, the soft chocolate chip cookies work the best, like the chewy ones. And then I might be looking at my cookie and go, oh, there's chocolate chips here, 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 here. Hopefully there's lots of chocolate chips. And so my drawing might be like this, okay? And then it says, now you're going to use your toothpick. So you're going to take that toothpick and you're going to dig out the chocolate chips. Now you're going to have to be careful. So you'll take that toothpick and you'll have your cookie and you'll dig around it. Now, if you go in really hard, you're going to break the cookie and it won't be any fun. The object is to get the chocolate chips out of the cookie without breaking the cookie or the chocolate chip. So the best thing to do is take your toothpick and go around the chocolate chip carefully and patiently and loosen it up. And when you think it's loose, you can kind of try to lift it up. If it doesn't come up, then you need to keep going around that cookie. I want to see how many chocolate chips you're able to get out of your cookie. So this is just like a scientist who is out on a fossil dig. He doesn't say, oh my gosh, look at this cool bone. It's probably been here for hundreds of years. I'm just going to dig at it, because that's not cool. It's going to ruin it. So you have to practice patience. When you finish, now, I only had you draw pictures of the fossils or the chocolate chips on top. Hopefully there are some on the bottom. You can decide whether you want to take those. When you finish, it says how many fossils or chocolate chips were you able to extract. Extract means able to dig out. And what did you learn about a paleontologist, about how a paleontologist does his job? So what did you learn? Paleontologist is a scientist who digs for them. So this should be lots of fun. I would love for you to send me a picture of you and your brothers and sisters digging for fossils in your chocolate chip cookie. Just put them on Seesaw. This is one of my favorite activities, and I'm so bummed out that I'm not going to get to watch you do it. But I know you're going to have lots of fun. Okay? So enjoy it, and I can't wait to see the pictures. Bye.